This red majestic four-wheeled object is a Porsche 911 Carrera 1984 with a 3.2 litre engine in the back. Now, you're probably wondering, it looks fantastic. Why is it with Yacht Car Restoration? Now, one thing I do need to say is rust likes to hide. Rust hides everywhere. Rust literally hides everywhere. There's rust down here. I know you can't see me, but there's still rust. So we're going to get it up on the ramp and see exactly where the rust is. You know when I said rust likes to hide? Well, there's now a big hole in the sill on the backside. Now, these drain plugs have also held water as well. So I've taken the small drain plugs out, only a little plastic thing, and they've held water as well. Also, underneath this sill, there's also a lot of corrosion as well, so we need to get these pipes off here. We need to get these pipes off and see exactly what's underneath there, but I dare say that the underseal is also hiding a lot of rust. Right, so just a tip for anyone that's looking to remove wings from a 1984 Porsche 911, don't. Now, it was an absolute pain to get these off. There's bolts all the way down here. You've got two bolts which are up the top here, which are an absolute pain to get to. There's bolts across here and it's all seam sealed in and, you know, stuff like that. But we've successfully managed to get it off without damage. Now, there is some, these have basically been off before. Now, I can tell that because there's bad welding here. And there was also some nuts and bolts which weren't screwed in properly, and some non-standard nuts and bolts as well. Now, this section here, all this has been taken off and there's been some welding done behind that, and it's the same but worse on the other side. Right, so here's the other side. Now you can see a hole here, and you can also see some welding that's back there, and you can see some bird poo welding here, and this all needs rebuilding. Now the headlights, they've got the fair share of rust on both of the headlights, as you can see. The wings themselves are actually in very good condition. Now we've put them on some foam just to protect them, and yeah, I'm quite happy with how the wings are, because there's a little bit of corrosion on the bottom, but we can soon sort that out, not a problem. Again, we need to clean all this up and see exactly what we need to do here, because it's grim from here forward, but from here backwards it seems in decent condition. So let's get the oil cooler pipes off. Right, so to continue removing these lines, we've removed it from the front all the way to here. So we need to take off this pipe here. Which one is it? This one up here and this one here. Now to do that, we need to drain the oil so we don't get oil everywhere. So it's 15 mil, and we're going to take this one off and this one off, drain the oil, and then we can continue on them lines. Right, so we're just doing the oil cooler lines now, so it's all fully disconnected. You may be wondering, why haven't you took the wheels off yet? And it's because we need an actual key to go into the locking wheel nut key, an actual turning key. Now that's on its way. It should be here tomorrow, hopefully. But what we're going to do is we're going to continue removing these oil cooler lines. So we're going to drop the car on the ground to move these, so we can hopefully slide this out as one big situation. Yeah. Right, that's enough for looking at rust. Look at this bad boy. Forget the gym membership, just buy yourself a 911 and just strip the underseal, because it gives you a hell of a shoulder workout. So this is mostly done. We've done that front section, we've done this belly pan just about all the way up to the engine, so that's all sorted. We've made an absolute mess, it's all over me, I've had it in my eyes and everything, not good. So now I'm going to give stripping the underseal a rest, and I'm going to start on these body panels. So I've got the two doors, the boot and the bonnet that I can take off, and also potentially this petrol tank as well, because obviously we don't want that in there when we're grinding or welding or cutting. I've got a belly pan to take off here, so I can obviously get to the fuel line to make sure that everything's disconnected adequately. And yeah, let's get into it. Right, so that's the doors, the bonnet and the boot off. Now, I've taken the 2 light pods out as well, and the back of them are very rusty. So the 2 screws that are actually holding them on, I think I only rescued 1 screw out of 4. So yeah, we need to sort that out. Also, one of these connections, it looks like it was very corroded and it just popped itself out. So yeah, that's that. That needs sorting. But for now, I'm going to get this bumper off, get these 2 side sections out. I'm going to get this off as well. And then we'll see how much rust is underneath that back bumper. We're going to drop that rear engine and the subframe and this front subframe as well. Right, so here she is, all 3.2 of her. Now, there's obviously precautions we need to take first before taking the bolts out and actually dropping the engine. So we've got gear linkages, we've got the fuel pipes, we've got all of the electrical stuff that's on the engine that needs to come off the engine. we've got bits in the ECU and things like that. So start inside the cabin, there's a gear linkage we need to disconnect, so we can do that. And then we'll get into this engine bay, get all the electrical connections and the fuel pipes, then we can get underneath and start everything there. Right, so that's the main harness for the ECU off. I've got the fuel lines, the oil breather pipe, also the plugs on the front as well, so that's all disconnected. So that should be everything in here. Now, I want to take the car up and disconnect the oil line on the bottom, and then I can obviously get to that drive shaft and the gear linkages. I can take them off and get everything else off underneath there, ready to drop this out. The engine is out. Now, I made sure to take my time. I think it took me about 3.5, 4 hours, but I was really taking my time and doing things methodically and just making sure that everything was good. Now, disconnected everything through that bulkhead. There is a shaft that goes through the bulkhead for the gear linkage, which you need to make sure that that doesn't catch on that sort of chassis rail there. So that's why you need to sort of raise the car up and pull the engine out so it slides out. Obviously making sure you don't hit this onto the actual car. So we were really careful. My two uncles helped me. So that's out now. So it gives us a good insight into all of this. So that's out. We're going to get it in storage. We're going to get it covered up so it's all nice and clean and it doesn't get dusty. And then we'll get onto that front axle. Right, so the engine's over there, nicely stored out the way so it's not going to get damaged. Now we've got all this room for activities. So the engine bay itself isn't bad. There's only little bits and spots of rust. I mean, well, I say it's bad. There's bubbling over here, there's rust here, there's rust here, there's quite a lot of rust down here, and there's rust on this back panel where the light's going. Also there's rust on the strut towers as well, both sides. And there's a little bit of rust just here as well. But apart from that, it's not bad. Now, we can take all this unseal off, wire wheel it down, and just see exactly what we've got to work with. I can undo these shocks here and just get inside there to make sure there's no rust. But apart from that, we're all good. Now, one thing I've noticed is this rubber, which sort of like seals the engine from the engine bay and the bottom, it's actually been squashed by the engine when it's been put in previously. So there's that, and there's actually a small tear on this little boot here as well. So we'll see about that, see if we can get that replaced. But apart from that, I did say in the start of this video that I'm going to actually drop this rear subframe or this rear suspension, but I don't think I'm going to do that now because there's no real need. So I can get to everything I need to get to without taking it apart. So I'm going to leave this for now, and I'm going to jump on that front and drop that front cradle. I'm going to see what I need to do first, because obviously I've got the steering rack to take off and things like that. But I'm going to drop that one, and then, yeah, we'll take it from there. Right, so the front axle is down. The main bolts were the 3 that were on this front section. There was 3 that was on the strut tower. There was 1 that was on the anti-roll bar. There was 1 that went through here, which was for the main frame, which this steering rack sits on. And we also had 1 which held this fuel filter in place as well. As for the brake lines, we had 1 brake line on either side, and then we had a wheel speed sensor on either side as well. Apart from that, it all came down nicely, so I wanted to keep it all in one piece and just drop it down, so we only had those bolts to contend with. Now it was a little bit stuck. I had to do a bit of prying just on here, but it came loose without too much of an issue, so that's sorted now. So now we can gain access to all of this. So with regards to the rest of this stuff, so we can locally take this off, wire wheel behind it, get it protected and put it back on, so that's not too much of an issue, so I don't really need to take anything else off. With regards to this, I made sure to take it off all in one piece, so you can just bolt it back on, bada bing, bada boom, done. Oh yeah, now that is what I'm talking about. Right, as you can see, pitting on this top side here, we've got a hole here next to the strut tower, and we've also got a hole here. Now this front section definitely needs work, because it's definitely had work on it before, very badly, because you can see the old spot welds. You can see bits of welding wire sticking out and everything, and yeah, it's just not a good job. So that needs repairing. Obviously we've got this here, which is pitting. We need to investigate this a little bit more and then decide on what we want to do with that. And then obviously we need to put a little panel in here. I need to check the top of it to make sure the top's okay. But yeah, we need a little panel in there. This, I thought this was going to be bad, but it's actually all right, to be fair. Bit of rusting on the bottom, which we need to investigate a little bit more. But bada bing, bada boom, done. Right, so what am I going to do? I'm going to take the car up. I'm going to do a nice channel all the way to the other side where the steering rack was, and then get onto the other side as well. And then once that's done, I can do all the rest of it underneath this side and then get onto the back and continue that. Look at the state of me already. It's everywhere. Right, good news and bad news. I am covered, absolutely covered in underseal. Just one sec. Right, good news and bad news. Good news, we've stripped all this. We've stripped most of it on the underside of this front section. All I need to do is move a couple of fuel lines and brake lines and just get underneath there as well. Get mostly in that sort of tunnel area just there. And we've got a lot of good metal down here. Bad news is, well, we kind of already knew it, but up on this section here. Now I think we mentioned this maybe in episode 1 or 2. But there is quite a lot of corrosion, and it's actually gone through on this top section here. There's even some on this upstand section as well, just here, which is unfortunate. Right, good news and bad news. Now, the good news is that that side, on the driver's side, is good. There is obviously the hole that's above the oil reservoir dry sump, but that could be sorted, no problem. The bad news is this side. Now, underneath the underseal is good, except for when you get up here, and you also get to this kidney ball down here. Now, there's a big hole on the bottom of the kidney ball, and it looks like this has actually been replaced before, because you can see the bad welding, and the kidney ball is actually sat probably 5 mil off of the actual body itself, which is never good. So yeah, there's a lot of work to do in this area here. Now, I can't help but notice that there's also some rust underneath here where these struts actually connect to the body. So we're going to take these struts off and try and clean up around that and just get everything cleaned that we need to do. And then, yeah, we'll take it from there, I guess. Yeah, it's not bad though, it's not bad. So this is all good and it's ready for the undercoating. Obviously we need to do a little bit more work, but it's just about ready. Now I'm going to concentrate on this rear quarter. So there's actually rust on this back section here. We need to take the bottom of the rear quarter off because we need to get to the kidney balls, and there's rust up here that's on top of a shelf that's inside that rear quarter. So I need to take the rear window out, and on the passenger side I need to drill all the spot welds out to try and nicely take the rear quarter off without damaging too much. Right, good news and bad news. Good news is first that the quarter panel is off without doing any damage to the actual body of the car. The bad news is if you cast your eye upon this nice situation here, you can see it's very rusty. There's holes here. This back scuttle panel is rusted through. There's holes here. It's very pitted here as well, which we'll have to grind that down and see exactly what we need to do. You can see the nice spot welds that have been taken out here without being, without damaging anything. If you move your way along to the back, you can see it's nicely rusty up here. We've got all the spot welds that have been drilled out. We've got a nice hole here that's starting to form. That goes inside the car. We've got the kidney ball here, which has clearly had work done to it before because you can see these bird poo welds, unfortunately. And this sill is almost non-existent, to be honest. Okay, that's a big bit of sealant. Okay. The worrying thing is that there was only 6 spot welds down this edge here, and you can actually see that this is the original lip that's down here, and someone's literally just ground the paint off, ground it down, and welded to it. So it should be like this. So it's an L shape here, and you can see this actually disappears underneath there. So this has had a quarter panel previously, and And yeah, it's very rusty. This is why we don't lap panels, because it just holds rust and holds moisture. So now I'm going to clean all this area up just to see exactly what we've got to work with. Yeah, we'll take it from there. Right, so I've cleaned this area up and it's not looking good. I've exposed more holes here. I've exposed a hole here, which I knew I would because this is all pitted. It's also pitted all the way up here. There's a hole here which I already knew about because I mentioned this a couple of episodes ago. All of this is pitted all the way down here. And this is not good either because a lot of this is pitted and obviously we've got a hole here. There's some bad welding that's on this old kidney bowl and it's just falling apart. And yeah, overall, it's rusty, believe it or not. Most of it is good, but a lot of it does need replacing, unfortunately, because I'm sure I've uncovered enough misery and devastation for one day. First things first, we need to loosen these bolts and pull this plate off of the side of the tub so we don't damage anything when we're cutting. And then it's down to the wire wheel on the grinder to tidy up all the rust, get rid of all of the loose stuff and expose exactly what we need to repair. As you can see, it's not looking good for this Porsche, and now you can see me cutting off this kidney bowl to expose all the hidden rust behind there and all the structural work we need to do to the tub of the car. Here you can see me peeling back this foam so I don't set fire to the whole entire car, and I've also just inserted a piece of sheet steel to protect anything that's inside that engine bay. Straight into the thick of it, cutting bits of the tub out to get rid of all of that rust. Next is to transfer it onto a piece of paper. Get the paper cut out. And then transfer it onto a piece of sheet steel. Here you can see me using a guillotine to roughly cut out the shape and then fine tune it. Now you can see me shaping the panel up and cutting some relief cuts to obviously get that shape in there, just like this panel. Now I'm offering the panel up and getting it tacked in. Once it's tacked in, I can then shape it and push it to where I need it to be. Once I've finished welding, I then get a wire wheel and clean all those welds up. And now I'm getting onto this back section, which is ridiculously rusty. There's many layers to this back section, but this is a very important structural part of the car because it's part of the back chassis rail. This is the second section and the second layer that I'm cutting out, and you can see inside that chassis rail it's not looking good. I'm removing these bolts, but even they are rusted on. So I've got to use some brute force. Now I'm removing the bad sections and all the rust. And here you can see it's not much better inside. Now I'm cleaning it all up and exposing all of the bad metal, and then we need to cut out all that bad metal and replace it with good. Here you can see me blowing out the chassis rail just to make sure all of the rust has disappeared. And now I'm refabricating that piece on the inner section of the chassis rail, which is quite thick steel. Here I'm using Dinatrol's rust converter and then U-Pol's weld-through primer. Very good stuff, I'd recommend it, link is in the description. Now finally I managed to get the first piece to this puzzle back into this chassis rail. Now I'm putting the second piece in and getting it welded in. And this is the reason why restorations take so long. It's because it's just piece after piece after piece. And on goes that last piece. Next is on to this top piece. As you can see, it's pitted. It's quite an intricate piece to refabricate this one because it's got quite a lot of contour curves on it. So here you can see me cutting out the piece of sheet steel. I'm tracing out the shape. And now you can see me tracing and trying to replicate the original. Then time to trim and shape it to the original, and you can see here I'm offering it up to the original to make sure that it suits. Next is to get a couple more bends into this panel using the anvil. And then I can make the piece that actually sits underneath it. Now I can get some holes drilled in that section, and from that transition you can see the difference between the old and the new. You can see that we've actually managed to get some decent shape into this corner section. Now it's time for this end capping plate, which again I'm using some paper. I'm making a paper template and then I can transfer it onto some sheet steel. But I've got to remember on this it's also got a border which folds back on itself. Here I'm using the bender just to put a 90-degree angle in it, and you can see I've got some relief cuts there, so then I can use the anvil to make that corner piece. Now comes this last section. Here you can see I'm starting to tack this piece on, and then I'm using a hammer and chisel to push that panel back to make sure that it's flush against the chassis rail. Now it's time to clean it up and get some primer on it. Now how much better does that look? What an absolute mission that was. Now, investigating this, as you know, everything was just rotten. I mean, even this thick plate here and the one behind it was just rotten. So I had to cut everything out just to get into that chassis rail to repair the chassis rail. But we've got this section down here, that's one. You've got this, which is two. You've got this inner, which goes all the way down and forms the bottom of the chassis rail, which is three. And I had to repair every single one of them, as well as this, as well as the end plate, as well as this, as well as that down there. Yeah. But what I do want to do now is I want to concentrate on that section over there. I'm using the bender to get two bends in this panel. And then you can see me using the anvil to actually shape the panel, just like you can see here. Now I'm prepping the panel so the welds are not contaminated with any paint or residue. Then I can finally get this panel welded in. Right, done quite a lot of work so far in this episode, but I'm going to continue going. Now, I'm going to start looking at this front section. Now, I've done a little bit of work off camera on the rear strut and on this strut tower as well, but that's all sorted now, that's done. It was only two little pieces. Anyway, I'm going to get onto this. Now, from the first or the second episode, you'd see that this is just absolutely mangled inside here. It's had some bad patch repairs on here. So what I need to do is take all of this off and see exactly what's behind there. But but that's going to be a task in itself, because I think they've probably welded these patch repairs onto this actual big situation here. It's the same on the other side, but I'm going to make some reference points so I know exactly where this goes back on. I'll then try and cut it off and see exactly how far I get. First, I need to take the battery out, and I need to get rid of all of these lines. And yeah, let's just do it. Let's do it, man. First comes out the battery. Then it gives me access to that inside section. Oh yes, now that is what I'm talking about. You can clearly see that there's multiple patches in this area. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Anyway, I'm just going to cut all of this out and make one big piece that covers all of this. I'm going to have to probably cut just above these holes, remake these holes, cut across here. There is a panel that's behind there on the inside, so I don't want to cut too far. Cut all this out, expose that panel, because I think that panel is somewhere here and it's been spot welded across here. And yeah, have this looking a lot better. But before I do this, I'm going to jump onto the other side and take that off as well, because I want to see what's behind there, and just so I can consider my options. So yeah, I'll leave this for now. I'll get onto that one, and then we'll probably jump back to here and try and sort this mess out. Same goes for this side. I'm removing all the lines that go through the panel and then taking off this bumper support, and it reveals yet more rust. The joys. Now I'm cleaning the panel up just to see how far the extent of the rust goes. This side, not great as well. Now, it was very difficult to get those pieces off because, like I said, all these patch panels were welded to that from the other side. And I didn't want to cut all of it out. I want to see exactly what I've got and try and utilize as much of the original as possible. Now, as you can see, this has got a big panel that's been lap welded in there. All this inside did look okay until I destroyed it. But it did look okay, but it was obviously covered in filler, fiberglass and paint. So that is salvageable. Now, you can see this top is good, this bottom is good, this side is good, this side is good. It's just literally just this inside here. So before I get into that, this has been staring me in the face for God knows how long. Now, all this rusty crustiness up here needs replacing. So before I get too far on that, I want to replace this on the top, same on the other side, and get all of this sorted. And then I'm going to move back onto this and get all these panels refabricated into here. And yeah, there's a couple of shapes and stuff that's going on. But I can obviously put that shape into there, that's not a problem. But yeah, like I say, I'm going to cut this out and I'm going to get a piece refabricated in here for this. And then that should sort out all of that pitting crustiness that's going on. So first things first, I get it tidied up. I use the wire wheel, remove all that surface rust and see exactly what I need to repair. Now I'm marking out the repair location, so then I can measure it out and transfer it onto some sheet steel. I then use the guillotine to cut the sheet steel out. I can use the bender to put a 90-degree bend in it. Here you can see this panel rocking backwards and forwards, and that's because the original has got a bend in it. So I use the stretcher to stretch that panel and make a slight bend in it to replicate the original. I can see it sits on and there's no rocking. And then I can start shaping it to the original by using a plastic hammer and pushing that panel around to the original. I'm basically using the original as a template. Now I'm marking out the cuts, I'm removing the panel, and now I'm cutting it out. Now I'm using some primer inside the cavity and on the back of the repair panel to make sure it's adequately protected. And now you can see me drilling some holes so that I can get it welded to the original. Here I'm making sure I get some vice grips on either side of the plug welds, and for each plug weld I'm actually using the hammer to make sure that the panel is up against the original. Next comes the final bit of welding, and then I can take it down with a wire wheel. Now for the other side, I'm not going to cover this in as much depth, but there was a small repair panel to do in this. So I've cut out the sheet steel, I prime the sheet steel, I get it welded in, I can then grind it all down, bada bing bada boom. Now I'm moving on to this front section. Now there's been a lot of repairs in this and it just looks like a Frankenstein disaster. So I'm getting the holes cut out so I can see exactly how much I need to replace. Next comes cleaning it up and getting some primer on there. Now I can use a paper template to trace out exactly what I need. I can get that cut out and transfer it onto some sheet steel. I put a bend in there and I can actually shape this to what I need it to be. And I've used this Porsche as an example for what shape I need to put into this panel. As you can see, this panel is slightly bigger than what it needs to be, but I can insert that panel. I can make sure it's in the right position. I can get it tacked in. And now you can see me cutting through that panel to make sure that it matches the original and it's butt welded to the original. Oh yeah, done-ish, kind of. Right, so there's three things that I do need to do on this, as you've probably already seen. There's this that someone's decided to weld around and leave really bad, so I'm going to tidy that up. There's a little bit on this front section that I need to fabricate, you know, that little L section there. That's not too much of an issue, and I've got holster drill in here as well. However, I'm going to do that probably off camera because I'm going to get into the thick of it on getting that other section done. So this is all done now, almost, apart from them bits. I'm going to get onto this section on this side and get all this welded in, and then get everything tidied up on the inside, yada yada yada, bada bing, bada boom, and then it'll be mostly done. Yeah. Okay. You can see me drilling out the old spot welds to make it easier to remove this panel, and then using what's left of a cutting disc to cut that panel out, and a hammer and chisel to gently tease it off of the original. Now I can use this cut-off section to transfer it onto some sheet steel and get it cut out to make the new one. The shape on this side is slightly different to the other side, and you can see I'm using the anvil here to get that shape in there. I'm then going to use a similar method to the other side, get it tacked on, cut through both pieces of sheet steel, and then I can get it butt welded. Well, unfortunately, I ran out welding gas on all the welders, unfortunately. So I'm gonna have to go and get some, but you know what that means. I'm gonna start cutting off the sills because they need to come off. Reveal the inner sill, see exactly what condition that's in, and then I can also cut the bottom of this rear quarter off to reveal that kidney bowl, and then get that cut off because we're replacing that as well. Yeah, man. So first things first, we get onto that passenger side sill, we cut it off with a cutting disc, and unfortunately, the thing with these sills is they rot from the inside out. So before we go any further, we need to clean it up with a wire wheel just to see how far that rust goes. Now we move on to the driver's side, and as you can see in the trough of the rear arch and that sill, it's not looking too good for the Porsche. So same goes for this sill, cutting it off with a cutting wheel and giving it a light bit of persuasion just to tease it off. So to get access to the kidney bolts, we need to cut the bottom of this rear quarter off, which we're taking both rear quarters off anyway. Now this section here is actually part of the main structure of the car, and as you can see, it's pitted and it's heavily rusted. After carefully extracting this part of the rear quarter, you can see that there's more rust. Now I've taken this kidney ball out, and you can actually see that there's actual rust on the tub of the car, which isn't good, because this is like the main structure of the car, so this needs replacing as well. Now I took the kidney ball off, and just like the other side, you can see the original kidney ball, which has not been removed properly. Also, this is part of this rear quarter, and if you peel that back, you can see the original rear quarter inside there. So now that we've got some welding gas, I'm going to weld that front section first. So I'll jump back on that, get that welded, and then I'll jump back here. I'm going to start removing the rest of this rear quarter, which means taking this window out, the door trim, getting all the spot welds taken out, obviously making sure that we don't damage anything on the body of the car or the trough on the actual engine bay, and then we can get everything cleaned up properly. So now, after finally getting some welding gas, we get back onto this front section, we'll get it welded in, ground down, we treat it with some Dinitrol rust converter, and then we get it primed. Now the reason for priming it so early is because we don't want it to flash rust. Now flash rusting is moisture in the air getting onto that bare metal, and it starts oxidizing. Now we move on to this rear window. So we've got a trim to take off of the outside of the car, which is basically a spreader for the rubber, and then we can tease that window out. Now we can concentrate on drilling out them spot welds for the rear quarter. Now there's plenty of spot welds around the window, and there's also some down the trough of the engine bay. So we need to make sure we don't go too far, because we don't want to damage what's underneath. Right, so after staring at this car for the best part of half an hour, trying to figure out what the best way to tackle this is, I'm going to have to remove the interior. Not all of it, but obviously the seats, the carpet, etc., where I can, because all of this, as you know, is the structure of the car. This is the tub of the car here, and all of this is gone. This all needs replacing. It's gone down here behind this jacking point here. It's also gone all the way up here. Now, we're also removing the inner sills on both sides and replacing them as well. Looking through this hole, there's also rust inside here. So we're going to have to remove the interior, remove the carpet where we can, and then start bracing this car up. So I want to get stuck into this interior, get the interior out, and start bracing this car up. We do have some angle iron, we've got some box section that we can use to try and really strengthen this car up, because as you can see, there's not much strength left in the car. Now, as you know, the engine has been removed, so there's no weight in the engine bay, there's no weight on the front, it's literally just the interior that's in there, and then these arms here as well. So everything should be a-okay. Yes. Now we're moving on to removing the seats. So there's 4 bolts in total on each seat. There's 2 at the front, 2 in the back, and there's also an electrical connection underneath. Once both seats are out, we can start peeling back the carpet, which is in sections, which is made easier, but it's also stuck down with some self-adhesive. Now there's no real need to take out the steering rack or the dashboard, so we're going to cover it up so we don't damage it when we're welding. Next, we're going to use our angle iron and box section. We're going to cut it down to size and make it fit, and this will really brace the car when we take the structural parts out that we need to replace. Right, so I've cut this box section here. This is quite a thick box section, so this is really strong. I've contoured it to this corner in here and this down here as well, so I can weld that in, and this is going to really strengthen this sill up once I take this inner sill out, because obviously once I take this out, this is the major structural part of the sill, and it's going to lose a lot of its strength. So this is basically going to reinforce the top of the sill, and it's not going to move anywhere. I've also got this bar here, which is going to go from here to here. And there's sort of like a plate inside here that I can weld it to, and I can obviously weld it to here, so that's going to stop any sort of like movement further up, and it also prevents any movement when I do actually take all of this out, because I need to take all of this out because it's obviously lap welded from factory. I do need to take this jacking point out as well, so yeah, I'm going to do that. Also, same on the other side, but we're going to do some lateral sort of like restraints as well, so from this side to that side, going to have some angle iron to stop any sort of movement on either side. I'm going to concentrate on this side first, so that side remains strong, but I'm still going to weld all the box sections and things in. So I'm going to make a mess, cut all this out, get these welded in, and yeah, take it from there, I guess. Okay, right, we've got this bar in, and we've also got that angle to cross brace either side, just so it doesn't do anything. Now, we don't really need that here because this has got all of this structure and it's got the floor pan and all of this, so we only need this at the back. Now, this is literally braced up to the heavens. It's like, yeah, this is really thick steel. Across the sill, it's all welded across here, it's all welded at the back, it's also welded here and here, so it's on two sections. And at the front, of course. So that means we can start cutting this inner sill out, because this inner sill has just about disappeared on the bottom section here. We need to be careful because there is the plastic heater hose inside there as well, so we need to be careful with that. We've got some panels through the post, or well, it wasn't post, it was, yeah, on a pallet, but we've got the panels. So we've got an inner sill, we've got a kidney bolt with a jacking point, we've got the rear quarters as well on both sides, and a couple of little odds and ends. So we can do away with this jacking point because it's actually inside the kidney ball. So the owner's actually bought a extended kidney ball that comes to somewhere here, so that's really going to strengthen this section up. So now we're going to start removing all of this here, all this steel. We can start removing all this, and it's not going to move because, like I say, it's braced. So it's not going to move anywhere. We're going to do one side at a time, so obviously that side can brace this side, and the same when we get there. And yeah, there's probably some more rust in there though, because it's completely gone. It's chop chop time. So after bracing the car, we can now move on to that inner sill. Now, I've taken the jacking point out, which was an absolute pain, but you can see here that we've actually got some new parts to go on the car. Now I've got the kidney bowl here, which actually includes the jacking point. We've also got the sill there that connects to the kidney bowl, and this should fit up really nicely. Right, I think this car is starting to turn into a bit of a disaster. Now, if you remember when the car came in, it was a nice majestic red Porsche, and now I've just cut the entire side of the car off just about. And there is some rust in there as well, believe it or not. Now we have got the new panels. They seem to line up okay on this. Obviously we need to make sure that they line up once we get all this off. But what I do want to do is I need to renew this edge further down, and then I want to renew all of this edge here as well. The reason for it is because it's not in the best condition, and I want a nice surface there to obviously weld the panels onto with, you know, obviously the inner and the outer sill. So I'm going to chop this strategically so I don't obviously compromise the structure, because I've got these welds up here with this bar that's on it. So I'm going to go from weld to weld, so obviously I can maintain them welds and just replace them on the new panel. And then, yeah, I'll take it from there, I guess. Because, I mean, I need to take all of this section out up here. And as you can see, it's just rusty and crusty and nasty, and yeah, it's not great. Now I'm going to move on to the structural part of the car. So I'm going to offer the paper up, I'm going to get a template, cut it out, and then I can transfer it onto some sheet steel and start making that piece. Here you can see me cutting some relief cuts so I can get a 90-degree bend on that radius. And then it's onto the tipping die to get a little bit of a bead into that panel. So once I've got the shape that I want in the panel, I can then tack it in place on top of the original, and then I can hammer form it to the original to get them bends in there. Right, so I've cut this sill off and I've actually made this section here. Now this fits just in there like that, and I kind of hammer formed it against the original because I wanted to sort of like make it all in one piece. Now I don't want to cut any further up here because I don't want to disturb any more structural integrity, because obviously we've got it jacked up here. This is quite a strong point because it's obviously got your swing arm and the load sort of like travels like this, so I don't want to cut any more of this out. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to chop this in half and weld the bottom half on, get the inner sill on, and then I can cut this out and obviously stitch this in. With that side, I want to jump onto the other side. I want to get the inner sill cut off and any bad bits of metal cut off, and then see exactly if that side is as bad as this side. Hopefully it's not. Right, so now that we've sorted that sill out and made a massive mess on that side, it's time to get the big guns out. It's time to throw away these glasses and put on the cool dude glasses, because we've got a laser cleaner there. Now, you may have seen it in some of our other episodes, but this bad boy like takes rust off like there's no tomorrow, and it can get everywhere where the eye can see. Whereas with a grinder, you're struggling to kind of get into different places. This, you just point and shoot, bada bing, bada boom, done. But the laser is quite a big boy. Now this is from zaclasers.com, links in the description. This is a pulsed laser cleaning machine, and it literally is the bee's knees. Now all you have to do to switch it on is simply do that. You need to log in to make sure that not anyone can use it, so there's a login and a password. Accept the disclaimer, and then you're good to go. Now there is different patterns that you can use with this as well. You can do a straight laser, you can do like a zigzagger thing, you can do all this sort of stuff, and you can actually change the power of it as well. So we're going to put it in action today. Remember, links in the description. This is a beast. Let's get on to it. Well, we've made some major progress in this video, but we've also uncovered some major rust in some major structural areas, which isn't good. But that machine is a beast. Who would have thought that majestic red Porsche that you saw in episode 1 would turn into so much of a disaster? Here you can see me removing the rest of the rear quarters so we can replace it with new. Now that the rest of those rear quarters are off, it's now time to tackle this inner sill. We need to make sure that we get all of the old panel off so we've got a good surface to weld that new panel to. Off comes the heater tubes and surprise surprise, more rust. So now we get the big guns out, which is the laser cleaner from Zach Lasers. I'll leave a link in the description to their website. This is an absolute beast. Once that's all done, we can get the heater tube sat back in there and tightened up, and then we can get that inner sill back on. Here you can see the panel from the previous episode, which I'm just welding together. I can get it primed, then I can get it installed. Right, so we've done a little bit of work off camera, but this is mostly done now. So this is all the inner structure done on this side, except for obviously the kidney ball that we need to put on there. So that's the inner cylinder on, that's this inner structure done. I've done this little bit off camera as well, which is just up near the window. I had to sort of like separate this into two little pieces just to obviously make sure I don't damage the structural integrity of the car, because this is a single skin. There's also an inner sort of kidney ball inside here, which I also had to fabricate the edges for. It's just, yeah, there's a lot of rust on this car. Anyway, with that, I'm now going to leave this. I mean, we've cleaned all this up as well. We've treated it with Dinatrol stuff, which is what this purple stuff is. It's the corrosion protection, the rust inhibitor from Dinatrol. So that's all sorted. So now I'm going to go on to the other side and get the inner sill on, get the inner structure all done, and then I can get it all in primer, get it all in etch primer to protect it. And then, yeah, we can start getting those kidney balls on and the sills and the rear arches. Here you can see me and my dad going full ham. He's working on Colin Firth's BMW E30, link also in the description, and I'm firing out this winter surround. Now throughout this episode, there's been an awful lot of work I've done off camera, like these edges on both sides where the winter surround is. I've done these edges down here. I've done fabrication, you know, on this section here, which is underneath the window because there used to be a big hole there. So we've just done a lot of odds and ends, including all the big stuff as well, which you've seen on camera, which is the inner sills. We've done the inner sills with the laser. We've done the inner sills there. We've done all this fabrication on the main tub. And yeah, all the bracing, taking out the interior, bada bing, bada boom. Now, all this purple stuff here is the Dinosol rust converter, which we've applied to all the bare surfaces just to make sure it doesn't rust again. But in this episode, we're going to continue on the fabrication on this car because we've got these kidney balls to put on, and then we're going to etch prime the entire underside and inside these sections here to make sure it's all nice and protected. And then we're going to continue on the build and hopefully maybe get some outsills or the engine in there, or maybe paint inside the engine bay. We'll see. But yeah, there's an awful lot of work to do on this car, so we best get started. Let's go. Right, so it is a couple of days later now, hence the short hair. I've actually had a haircut. I know it was overdue. I know, I need to do the beard now. Anyway, with that aside, the paint had a couple of spare days and I was on another project, so I got him to paint this engine bay because it needed doing anyway. So I didn't film it, but he stripped everything out of the engine bay, prepped it all, painted it, put it all back. So it's now nice and glossy and red, and yeah, anyway, because before it was like pink and faded and all sorts of different colours and like overspraying that. But anyway, with that aside, now I'm going to concentrate on the kidney balls, like I said in the intro of the video. So I need to etch prime the locations of the kidney balls, get the kidney balls on, and get them welded on, get it ground down, clean it up, and then I can etch prime the entire underside and body and tub of the car. Right, so we've got the kidney balls on, bada bing, bada boom. They're done. Now, this car looks slightly different to what it was in the last clip because everything's taped off, ready for primer, and we've used some Dinitrol rust neutralizer on all of the bare surfaces. So that's that. So that's why it looks shiny and it looks purple in areas. So I need to do a bit more welding, which is on the side skirt holders, which basically hold the side skirt on. So I need to do them. There's 3 on either side, so I've got them to do. For that, I need to offer the rear quarter up and just make sure that this side skirt is actually in the right place. Then the side skirt holders are here. Just need to do 3 pins on either side. Once that's done, I can get everything primed. And we can use some self-etch primer or some etch primer on that and get it all in primer and get it looking nice. It is prime time. So we've got those little sections done down there. I've taped the rest of the car up so we don't obviously get any overspray on the car, and it is now time to prime. So all of this side section, the fronts and the underneath as well. Obviously we don't have to do inside the engine bay because that's done. So we'll get it primed, get it protected, and then hopefully get some seam sealer on there as well. It's amazing what a bit of primer can do. Now, it's all one colour and it looks so much better than what it did. Now, I'm going to move on to the seam sealer. Now this is all nice and dry, I'm going to seal all of the repaired areas, and I'm also going to seal all these seams here as well. And that makes sure no moisture actually gets trapped between the panels and starts rusting it from the inside out. That's the seam sealing done. Now we're going to move on to the Dinitrol ML, which is a cavity wax protection. Now you can spray this in all the cavities, and obviously you've got this little lance here that you can get in there and, you know, spray it all up in there, and it creeps between the seams and it makes sure it's all nice and protected. So we'll get that done first. Then after that, what we can do is we can spray the ML on the entire underside of the car, which this basically acts as an adhesion promoter, and it also gives an extra layer of protection. So this car has literally had everything. It's had the RC900 from Dinatrol, which is a rust converter that's been on every bit of the car. Then it's had 2 coats of the etch primer, then it's going to have the ML, and then we're going to move on to the 4941, which is the underbody protection, the self-knitting stuff, and then the 445, which is the stone protection, which goes in all the arches. So let's get some let's get some ML on in all the cavities, spray it on all the underside, and then we'll take it from there. Right, the ML is done. Now we go on to the 445, which is the stone chip. Now this goes in all of the arches, so we'll put this on first, and then we can move on to the 4941, which is the underbody protection. So there's 2 main differences. This is a hard surface, it's overpaintable, and it dries really, really tough. So obviously stone chips will be repelled. And then the 4941, which is the underbody stuff, is sort of like quite a tacky substance, and it's self-knitting as well. So if there's any damage underneath, it kind of knits itself back together. So all good stuff, will recommend it. Links in the description. Do check Dinatrol out. They're a good partner of ours, and we use them on basically all of the cars, even cars that we don't film. So let's get this on, the 445, first on the arches, and then we'll move on to the 4941. .445 done, stone chip done. Now this is very quick drying as well, which is a good note for when you're in a rush like I always am. So we've now got the 4941. This is the corrosion protection, underbody protection. It's a self-knitting stuff. It stays slightly tacky and it's self-healing as well. This is very, very good stuff, just like the 445. Again, links in the description. This is so easy to apply, it's unbelievable. Literally, you can get a range of guns. There's a couple of guns that Dinatrol actually sell. You can use a normal Schultz gun or anything like that. Just bash it on, bada bing, bada boom. So, time for the 4941. So this basically, I'm going to put it on the front and I'm going to put it on the entire underside. Now, I emptied 2 full canisters of 445 on the arches, and then I'm probably going to empty about 5 of these 4941s, judging by previous experience on other cars. So, let's get a gun on this and let's get it on the car. Again, a massive shout out goes out to Dinner Troll. I mean, this stuff is just the absolute bee's knees. So links in the description to Dinner Troll. Do check them out. Very good stuff. And it really does just finish this underbody off. Now, I want to start on taping this, all this underbody stuff just here. I'm not going to untape the car yet because I'm going to get the engine right here. I'm going to get the front running gear right there, and I'm going to start, hopefully, putting it back on the car. First things first, we're going to start with this front subframe. So we've got 3 bolts each on the top of the struts. We've got 2 on the anti-roll bar clamps. We've got 1 on this main frame on either side, and then we've got 3 on this front section here. We've also got a towing eye on one side and then just a clamp on the other side, a retaining clamp. So we're going to lower the car down enough to try and get this bolted up, and then we can obviously take the car back up and bolt it fully. Right, I think we're ready to get the engine in. Now, I know what you're thinking, we've still got the bracing inside, and I'm going to cut that off when we get the engine in, the running gear back on, and then I can take it onto the ground and then cut the bracing out. I don't want to do it before the engine goes back in. So we've got this nice rubber on, we've got everything prepared in there, we've got the struts on as well. So we're going to pop the engine in, really nice and steady, so we don't break anything, and then hopefully we don't get any issues, because, yeah, we don't need any issues on this car because it's an absolute disaster. Yeah, let's get to it. Right, major milestone. So we've got the engine in. My two uncles helped me put it in. We've got it in probably in about 2 hours. I've also done all of the gear linkages, everything on the bottom side of the engine and everything inside the engine bay as well. I just need to do the gear linkage inside the cabin, and I think there's also an electrical connection in there as well. We've also got the front running gear on, so that's all sorted now. There's just a belly pan that I need to put on down there, but I need to refurb it first before I put it back on. But that's most of everything onto the car. So I can't start the car yet because we need to put some oil in it and we need to get a filter as well. So that's going to be in the next episode. But for now, I'm going to get the wheels on and yeah, it should look more like a car again. This car has not been on its 4 wheels since probably either January or February when I actually started this build. Now, don't forget what we've done. We've done, obviously, inner sills, inner sills, stripped the interior, put all the bracing in there. We've done a full strip on the under seal. We've done all the jacking points. We've done the kidney balls. We've done all the repairs on the structural tub. We've done the repairs on here. We've done the repairs on the other side. This car has just been an absolute disaster. Not from day one, because we thought at day one it was actually a very nice car, but obviously it turned into a disaster. So this is a major milestone, getting it back onto its 4 wheels and actually sitting like a car again. So I'm going to take the ramp down and yeah, get it sitting on its 4 wheels. We've got the engine in, we've got the front axle on, we've got the front running gear on, we've got everything just about ready to start this engine. Now we still need to put oil in the tank, we need to get an oil filter as well before we do start it, but all the electrical connections is done. We're going to continue putting this car back together. We've got the fuel tank, we've got the spare wheel, we've got the under tray on the front to put on, we've got loads of little bits and bobs to do. We've certainly come a long way with this car. Now, it looks so different being sat on its wheels. It looks really low and just weird and strange. But that is a major milestone, getting a car back on its wheels, getting the engine in, getting the car back on its wheels. Obviously, we still need to get it started, like I said. So what I'm going to do now is I want to take all the tape off. I can get the glass out on the inside. I can take the bracing out of the car as well, which the bracing was in there because obviously we did all the structural work on the kidney ball and the tub of the car, and then yeah, we'll take it from there. We still can't get the engine started because we're still waiting on a filter. So we've got the oil, but we're still waiting on the oil filter. But what I can do is clean this belly pan up. I've got a couple of other little items down here that I can get cleaned up and rust protected. Then I can take all this bracing out of the inside because this is not needed anymore, because obviously we've done all the structural parts here. So this can go, I can tidy the inside, and I can start removing those windows because this car's getting a full body respray. So the windows need to come out. I cannot believe how easy that front windscreen came out. I didn't even take out the rubber retainer or anything, it just literally popped out. This back one was a little bit more difficult, but I only took half of the retainer out and then it popped straight out. I thought I was going to be wrestling with it for like, yeah, a couple of hours, but no, 10 minutes, bada bing, bada boom. Next is the doors. So I need to get the doors on first because I don't want to put the rear quarter on and the sill on and then try and fit the door in that gap. I actually want to put the door in first so it's lined up with this top section and the side there as well, and then I can line the sill and the rear quarter to the door. So these doors are quite heavy and it's just me in the workshop currently, so I'm going to struggle to get these doors in, but they need to be done, they need to be in, so let's do it. Right, so it is the next day now. Managed to get the doors on. I think this one took a whole lot longer than this one because I got the knack of it when I did that one. Anyway, so I'm going to get the wings on and I'm also going to get this frunk on as well because I want everything from the front to the back of the doors to be in line. And that means that the doors, because they've got quite a lot of adjustment, I've closed the doors and they look half decent, but I just want to make sure that they're actually fully aligned before I put that rear quarter on and the sill. Right, we've got the panels on. I need to spend a couple of hours just sort of like moving these panels around just to get the best gap in that I can. But it means that from the back of that door forward and from the back of that door forward is all good, panel gap wise. Then I can put the sills and the rear quarters on to where the door meets it and make sure those panel gaps are good. These panels look different to what they did because we've already started doing the bodywork on these off camera. So that's in progress, that's why this one's shiny and these ones aren't. But first, before I do the panel gaps, I want to get the oil cooler lines on. So it means drilling some holes and tapping the brackets that I put on in the previous episode on the bottom of the sill because the oil cooler lines actually attach into there. So I need to just whip this, this wing off. I need to get the oil cooler lines in there and get them attached correctly. And then I can put this wing back on and then I can get all the panel gaps 100%. Right, we are getting closer to getting this car started. So I've got the panels on the front. I still need to shimmy them around to see exactly what panel gaps I need. But I couldn't help myself but put the oil cooler lines and then obviously the filter and the oil. Now we've got the filter. So now I'm going to put the petrol tank in and fingers crossed, hopefully get this car started. Right, a huge fingers crossed moment right now because I'm really hoping I've connected everything up. I've done everything correctly. I mean, right now I'm thinking about, have I done that bolt up? Have I done this? Have I done that? I've gone through everything, or most things, and yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, pinnacle moment, fingers crossed it starts. Let's do it. Let's do it, it's now or never. Right, immobiliser. There we go. Don't know what that means, but okay. Right, let's make sure it's not in gear first. Right, I think we're ready. Right, so we're just currently getting some fuel through the system because obviously I've drained everything, so all the lines will be empty. So I'm just pumping the throttle, trying to get some juice in there, you know. Right, let's try again. Come on, baby. Come on. Woo! Right, let's quickly check for leaks. Started. Got it started. Nice. I mean, to be honest, I'm kind of here on my own in the workshop. It's like nearly 8 o'clock at night. I was determined to get this started today, and we managed to get it started. So that is a massive win. I mean, it didn't, not the first turn of the key. I had to get all the juices flowing and things like that, you know, get all the juices in there. But we've actually managed to get it started, which is a massive win. So we've got it back on its wheels, got it under seal with Dinatrol stuff, and we've got it started. All we need to do now is do the sills, the rear quarters, and get it painted, and then bada bing, bada boom, it's done. Now we've still got to line up all of these body gaps to obviously put the rear quarters and the sills on, but we're going to do that in this episode. But first, in this episode, we're going to concentrate on that interior. We need to refresh this headliner. We also need to put a couple of other little bits and bobs that we've refurbed, so we can put them on the car as well and get this car just about 100% complete as far as we can before paint and obviously before the quarters. So let's just do it. Right, so we've got the sunroof out and we've also got this panel out here as well. I mean, this has seen better days, to be honest. So it's probably a good job that we're refreshing all of it anyway, because all of the edges were starting to peel away. It was getting very brittle and cracking and things. So anyway, with that aside, I've been working on these panel gaps for about 2 hours so far, off camera, just trying to get everything lined up. What I do need to do is pull the car off the ramp so I can open that door fully and get the shims out and change the shims and things like that. Most of the panel gaps are good on this side, but now I need to concentrate on this side. So I'm happy with this door, with this wing, and with this bonnet so far. But I need to do this wing and then that door. And then hopefully, once that's done, we can then get the sill and the rear quarter welded on. However, we need to make sure all the panel gaps are good when the car's actually fully on the floor. So obviously all the weight is where it should be, and just to make sure obviously all the panel gaps are good. So I'm going to get off the ramp, stop rambling on, and continue on with the panel gaps, which is a very tedious job. We've spent the past 2 hours just kind of fiddling about with this sill and this rear quarter. Now we need to make sure these are in the right place before we weld them on, because if they're not, then the door's not going to fit, because the door needs to fit across this top and both of these sides of it, of course. I mean, we have got a little bit of movement in the front wing, but if it doesn't fit at the top and it fits down here and down here, then that's no good. So we've lined the door up, as I said previously. We've taken the wing off so we can get the sill in. So I need to drill some holes in the sill and I can get the sill finally welded on, and then this quarter actually threads over the sill, so then we can put the rear quarter on. The door does need a little tiny bit of adjustment, so the bottom needs to come out and the top needs to stay there, so it kind of needs to come out like that. So we need to bring the bottom out like that so it meets the sill. However, everything isn't bad. I mean, this rear quarter still needs to come up. It's but we have managed to get it earlier. We've just slapped it on just there. So I'll get some holes drilled in the sill. We'll get the sill on first and then we can get this rear quarter on. And yeah, it's kind of looking a little bit more like a car again, which is nice. Right, after 5 or 6 hours of moving things around and trying to get things to fit, we've actually managed to get the rear quarter and the sill on. Now the sill is welded on the back where the rear quarter covers it, but it's tacked on the front, and obviously we've got the rear quarter tacked on as well. All the gaps are really nice all the way down, and we've just tried the front wing on as well, and this gap all the way down here is really nice also. So that's a good note. I mean, it's highly dependent on how good the panels are. That's why you need to get good panels so they fit nicely, because you'd literally just spend hours trying to move things around and make them fit. But the door fits all the way at the top, really nice. Fits all the way down here. You've got a nice gap. You've got a nice gap all the way down on the sill as well. So that's good. That's very good. So now the other rear quarter hasn't quite turned up yet. So we're going to get the other sill on first and make sure that's tacked in and in place, and then hopefully that rear quarter comes, hopefully, today. Right, it's a couple of weeks later because we've been waiting for this rear quarter. Now this was delivered yesterday, so it means that I can finally get this rear quarter on. Now, in the last clip, I was doing this sill, so this sill is mostly welded on now, where I need it to be, because this rear quarter actually slips over the sill. So now, I'm going to start fitting up this rear quarter and getting it in place and getting it tacked on. But first, I need to drill some holes in the rear quarter and get it all primed and protected and prepped ready, and then I can start test fitting it on the car and trying to make sure that the gaps are all good on the door. Look at this. The car actually looks like a car again, believe it or not. We've finally managed to get, this delivered, and we've finally managed to get it on. All the panel gaps are good. May need a slight bit of tweaking, but we can obviously sort that out. This is just tacked on for now, so I will be welding it in the next episode. We've got both sills on, we've got both rear quarters on. Bada bing, bada boom. Right, so now everything's painted in there, looks absolutely fantastic. Steve did a wonderful job, as always. Now, we're gonna place everything on here. We're gonna take the doors off because the doors are nice and perfectly aligned with the rear quarters. We know these doors are in the right place because obviously before we actually painted the bits, we had the wings on there, so that's all sorted. So we're gonna take the doors off and then we're gonna hang everything on the car so we can flat and polish it, but also so I can actually place the front bumper support as well. She's painted. The car is painted. Wow, what a milestone. It's so nice to see a car that you've been working on for so long, finally in one solid colour. It's absolutely mental. Now, Steve's done a fantastic job. We've painted the inside in there as well, where I had the bracing. We've done the inside where the kidney balls were as well. Just looking at this car now, it's such a big milestone to get it finally painted after it's been on the ramp for so long. And you know, the amount of work that we've done on it as well, it's just absolutely mental. So I'm gonna get it on axle stands, get the wheels off, and then we'll start prepping for painting the inner arches. Look at how majestically red this car looks. It's crazy, honestly. Because I'm used to seeing it without any quarters on, or with it being 3-4 different colours, you know, with the primer and with the black and with all that sort of stuff. But anyway, that's sorted. We sprayed the arches, put the wheels back on, bada bing, bada boom. Now it's time to flat and polish the car, because flat and polishing, you wet sand with 1500, 2000, 2500, etc. And with polishing, you get compound everywhere, so we don't want to throw everything back on, like all the window trims and all the rubbers and everything like that, and then get, you know, polishing compound all over them. And then I'll start throwing the Porsche finally back together. Right, that is most of the flat polishing done. Now I've done all the flatting. The polishing, I've still got these edges to do, but as you can see, this we need a new pad for this, so I can't get in all the edges. So that can come, obviously, once we get the car back together and we get a pad for that. So I'm not going to let it stop me. I'm going to start untaping this, and I'm going to start throwing things back onto the car, get the doors on, get the wings on, the bonnet, etc. Try and get the glass in as well. I've got the headlining to do before I do the glass. Let's not forget that. But yeah, it's starting to look like a car again, which is very nice. Yes. Look, we're getting the car together, finally. Things are going back on. Now, I've not done much talking and not much filming because this car has been an absolute pain in the ass to put back together. Everything's just decided to go wrong. So yeah, we've still got things to do, and I've also ripped my trousers. Yeah, that's not great. So I've ripped my trousers doing this, putting this car back together as well. So fantastic. So we've still got little bits to do. We've got the bumper to put back on. We've got the rear lights to put back on. Little bits and bobs. We've also got this windscreen wiper to put back on as well. The seats, and obviously continue cleaning it, flat and polishing it, etc. And then it should be about there. There's little bits and bobs to do, but yeah, it's actually looking like a Porsche 911 again, which is absolutely crazy because this car's been apart since February. And to be fair, we've not done bad doing a full restoration on this. I'm talking rear quarters, inner sills, outer sills, you know, you name it, we've done it on this car. Engine's been out full under seal, everything. Links in the description to the playlist. But we are getting there. So we're going to continue going and yeah, try and get the rest of the bits together. And yeah, it's nice getting things back together. Getting things off the shelf, onto the car, and it looks like a car again. And I've ripped my pants as well. Bada bing, bada boom, we did it. What a journey we have been on with this car. Now, when it first came in, it was nice and red and majestic and it looked rust-free. But little did we know, we had to take all of this off. We had to take these rear quarters off, the inner sills, the outer sills, the kidney balls. We had to do structural work. We took the engine out. We did all the rust protection underneath and stripped everything underneath as well, and we've just done so much on this car. It's unbelievable, and it is really, really nice to see it as a car again, you know, just about fully complete. We do have little bits and bobs. I mean, we still need to buff this. We've got a little couple of things inside to do. We've got the windscreen wiper to do, but all in all, the car is 99.99999% complete, and it is so nice. There's like mixed emotions at the moment because it's been a major project. It really has been a major project in this workshop, and there's mixed emotions because it's finally done and there's nothing else to do on it, and it's like a sigh of relief that it's done. And you know, just honestly, it's so nice to see this car all in one piece. And like I say, there's a couple of little things that we do need to do, but it's honestly, it's so satisfying to see this car what it was a couple of months ago and to see it now. It really is. So thank you very much for watching. Do check out our other videos on our channel as well, and yeah, we'll catch you in the next one.